While most have chosen to be part of the problem, we have chosen to be part of the solution. While most have asked why, we have dared to ask, well, why not? While most have accepted defeat, we have accepted the challenge to compete. While most are overwhelmed by difficulties, we have transformed them into opportunities. While most are focused on the obstacles, we remain focused on the openings. While most have given up, we have certainly not given in. While most have lost all hope, we remain hopeful. While most have resolved to just talk about it, we have resolved to take action. While most complain about whence they came, we haven't forgotten who brought us this far. While most wish they were like us, we just thank God we're not like most. Thank you, and thank you for participating in the National Society of Leadership and Success Professional Development Leadership Program. We're so excited for you to be here today, but I got to tell you, I have to applaud you for taking a bold step into developing your leadership skills. And the program starts with your choice that you made to be here today. Now, I must tell you that you are not here by accident or by happenstance. It was you were predestined to be here today to hear what we have to teach you today about developing your leadership skills. Now, I say that as a bold statement because I can back it up and prove it. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Joe Martin. I'm a professor, consultant, and educator, and I teach all across the country working with students of all ages, administrators, school faculty members, you name it. And I work on helping them develop the leadership skills it takes to be more successful in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. Now, I tell you my story because my leadership journey did not always start where it is today, where I'm traveling all across the country, writing books, doing television shows, that type of thing. It actually started when I grew up in the projects in Miami and Liberty City. At the age of 16, when I was probably at my wit's end thinking I had no more hope for my life, I sat there at the age of 16 with a pistol in my mouth getting ready to pull the trigger. Now, to give you some background information on what led up to that point, it was the fact of what I had to endure and what I had to go through, and I was so frustrated with life. At the age of 16, I had buried 6 of my friends while I was 16 years old. 6 of them. My mom was a teenage mother. She had me at the age of 16. My dad walked out on us when I was only 2 years old. And I mention us because I had a younger sister who was a year younger than I was. Also, the only male in my life that I ever truly respected and trusted sexually abused me as a child. Now, you can imagine at the age of 16, having seen your friends get killed in front of you, murdered, and you had to experience crime and abuse, that you felt there was no hope to live. And I made a decision that day that I was going to end my life. But by divine intervention, I changed my mind on that day by making a choice. And see, just like the choice you're making today to be part of this, I made a choice because I found out that leadership is not about a position or a title. It's about a choice. So that choice has put me in this spot today that I believe that you are here, no matter how you got here, no matter who invited you here, you're here for a reason. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because here, first of all, we're not here with the society to make you a leader. We can't make you something that you're not already. Because I give you an example. I get a lot of calls from parents who want me to work with their teenagers. They'll call me up and they say, Dr. Martin, would you work with my teenager? I said, why? I said, because they need to be motivated. And I always ask this question. I said, well, is your child an idiot? They said, no, why? I said, well, thank goodness, because if your child is an idiot and I motivate your child, now they're a motivated idiot. You need something to work with. Now, I would like you to know that as good as society is, we can't make you something that you're not. So what is our purpose? What is our job? To help you tap into that potential, to help you live up to your greatness as a leader. And we're going to do that. Now, through intense exercises, we're going to do some strategy building. We're going to do some team building where you're going to work with other partners in your group. We're going to help you get there. But you're going to have to make an important decision. We said that leadership is a choice, not a trait or characteristic. I think Martin Luther King said it best, that we all are destined to be great because we all can serve. Leadership is a choice. Now, in order to make that choice, I'm going to ask you to require one thing of you. And before I tell you what that one thing is, let me go back to how I started the program today. I started with the poem that I wrote called Not Like Most. Now, it was inspired by a student who I met when I was getting ready to change jobs to teach at another university. He came by my office as he usually did. His name was Steve Langley. And Steve said, Professor Martin, I need to talk to you for a second. I said, yes. He said, well, I heard that you're leaving to go to another university. I said, I sure am. He said, well, you've shared wisdom with us for all these years that you taught here and since I was a freshman. He said, now, I know I won't get to see you ever again probably, but if there was one bit of advice you could give to me that could help me succeed not only here, but in life, what would it be? Now, no one had ever asked me that question before, so I thought long and hard about the answer before I gave it to Steve, because I realized that this is going to be the words that he remembers me by. So I thought for a second, and I told him this. I said, Steve, I got it. If you want to be successful, not only in college and in life, very simple. Watch what most people do in a given situation and do the total opposite. That was my advice to Steve before I left to go to another university. Now, he looked at me kind of funny. I don't understand, Professor Mark. You want me to do the opposite? I said, absolutely. I said, because you look at society today, do most people accept responsibility or place blame? He said, well, they place blame. I said, do most people talk or do they take action? He said, they talk. I said, do most people look for a solution or are they part of the problem? He said, they're part of the problem. So my question is, do you want to be like most, Steve? He says, no. I said, so you must dare to be different. So the one thing we require for you from the society today is that we want you to dare to be different. You have to think outside of the box. And we're going to ask you to do three things. One, you're going to have to be totally honest with yourself and with the person you pair up with when we do these exercises. No holding back, just be totally honest. They're not going to judge you. You're not going to judge them. Two, we're going to need you to be in the present. What I mean by be in the present, right now some of you have to-do lists a mile long that you're thinking about you have to do after this training program. Right now, forget about that list. Focus on the present right now. And the last thing I'm going to require for you today is that we want you to be open. Open to suggestions. Open to new ideas. And I promise you, you're going to get the most out of this. So with that, make your choice right now to take as much as you can from this training development program and to give it back to others when you leave. Now, we're going to cover some topics, and now, like I told you, we're going to have some interviews some video clips of people who are very successful, who can share with you some ideas and strategies that they've used to become so successful as leaders in our community. Some you know, some you may not know, but pretty much they're very famous, and a lot of people do know them, and they've made a big impact on society. And we're going to talk about the first topic before we get into all the details. The first topic that we're going to talk about is belief. Now, we're going to talk about topics of being a good leader. And every leader has to have a strong belief system. Now, let's define belief in its simplest terms. All belief is feeling certain about something when you know it to be true. Like right now, if I had put some money on the line and I bet you, do you believe you are a college student? You say, well, Joe, I'm pretty sure of that. I can probably prove that. Yeah, I'll bet money on that. If I told you right now, I bet you that you're not American. You said, no, Joe, I am an American. I have my citizenship. I live here in this country. You would say, I'm very confident about that. Or if I said that you live in a certain city, wherever city you may be, you would be pretty confident about that. See, those are beliefs that we really cannot be shaken because we believe them down to our core. But what if I asked you this? Do you believe you're the most talented and gifted leader on your college campus? Then you would not hear the immediate response of, yes, I know I'm the best leader on my campus. There will be some doubt, a little bit of insecurity in your mind about that. And the reason why that is the case, because sometimes our limiting beliefs stop us from seizing the moment to living up to our full potential. So do you know that you're a great leader? Now, as I go across the country, I've tried to do this test with students, and it's funny if you do it with high school students, because, everything is about being cool. And I ask them the same question. Do you believe you're a high school student? Yes, we know we're a high school student. Do you believe that you're cool? Well, yes, I know I'm cool. And I say, do you believe that you're the sexiest person at your high school? You should hear them. They just all crack up laughing. And then I say, if you are the sexiest person at your high school, please stand up. And you can imagine the room when I do that. Now, ironically, let's say 500 kids. 3 will stand up. The rest are just picking at him, laughing. I can't believe they're standing. He said in school, not preschool. But they'll stand up and everybody will ridicule them. But then I will have the crowd applaud those 3. And they said, why are you having us applaud those 3? I said, because those 3 stood up because they didn't care what you thought. You may not think they're sexy, but they believe they're sexy. Now, I say the sad thing about it is a lot of you in the audience who sat down, who wouldn't stand up, you think you're sexy, but you were afraid to stand up. That's a limiting belief. And the reason I'm so passionate about this point, and you're going to see from one of our video clips of how this point is illustrated, the reason I'm so passionate about it is because when I was in high school, I never thought college was even in my future. No one in my family ever graduated from high school, number one. So let alone when I graduated from high school, I didn't think I had to go to college. So I started asking other people's opinion. And I started hearing some of the same things you probably heard when you thought about going to college if you had to go through some of the same things that I did, which was, Joe's a good kid, but he just doesn't apply himself. Oh, Joe's a great kid, but, he's not college material. And I took all those beliefs in and accepted them as my own. And I started doubting myself, never thinking I could go to college. But one person pushed me to the edge, and it was a recruiter who tried to get me to go to the Navy instead of go to college. Because I told myself, you know what, even though I don't think I could succeed in college, I believe I should give it a chance. And he said, Joe, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. I said, why not? He said, Joe, because I've seen your SAT scores. I'm like, so? He said, Joe, your SAT scores are so low, they won't let you drive by college. That's what he told me. Now, could you imagine what that did to my self-esteem? And you know what? I decided I was going to prove this guy wrong because I'm thinking, hey, what does he know? But what I found out is when you take a stand for something you believe, you will be challenged on it. And I was challenged on it because every university I applied to started rejecting me. One even had the audacity to write a note on my rejection letter to say, I thought you got that many points for putting your name on the test. But I persisted through it. And not only did I go to college and was the first person in my family to go to college, graduated early at the age of 20, at the top of my university class, was voted Student of the Year out of 9,500 students on my campus, and became the youngest professor ever hired to teach in the state of Florida at the age of 24. Now, I don't say these things to impress you. What changed other than my attitude and my belief in myself? Now, we're going to show you an interesting clip from a great friend of mine who you should all know because he's the founder and president of the society. And he's going to talk to you about these limiting beliefs and how they can stop us from achieving the things that we want in life. So please, I want you to pay attention and listen to Gary's story. His name is Gary Turak, the president of the society.
To start off with, interesting question. They asked 2,500 people across the country one question. They said, when you graduate, are you going to do what you love or are you going to do what is going to make you the most money? What do you think most people said? Money. 83% of the country, this is of the 2,500 student study, said, you know what, I'm going to go after the dollar. 17% said, I'm going to do what I love. 20 years later, they did a follow-up study. And this is what they found. There was 101 millionaires. And all of those millionaires, except for one, came from the small group of 17% that said, I'm going to do what I love. Graduating class at Yale, 1952, they did a study and they asked one question. They said, how many of you in this room have a clearly defined, written down goal of exactly what you were going to achieve when you graduate? In fact, I'm going to ask this question here. Do the survey nationwide so you can see in your rooms the response to these questions. This is what they asked a graduating class at Yale, 1952. How many of you have a clearly defined, written down goal of exactly what you're going to achieve when you graduate? By show of hands. Okay, so we got 2 in the room here. This is what they found. And our percentages are a little bit higher with society members because we're some of the more motivated ones that are listening to these kind of things. They found that 3% of the graduating class at Yale had written down goals. 20 years later, they found that that 3% was earning more money than the other 97% combined. How many of you have a clearly defined, written down goal after tonight? Part of this program is to get you into that 3%. Not that it's about money, though. Sometimes people get a little confused with success. And some of the people that I'm going to be talking about tonight have had a lot of financial success, but it'll be very clear to you that the definition of success for today is not just financial success. But when you're living the qualities of highly successful people, usually financial success happens to come with that. Take a look right now, years later, into the workforce. This is the state of most of our country. Most of us are not pursuing what we want, not pursuing our goals. And they did another study now. People in the workforce, 180,000 American workers. You know what they asked? They said, are you happy with your life? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with how you spend most of your day? You're just at work? 80% said no. This blows me away. 80% of our country is unhappy with how they're spending most of their day. We spend 5/7 of our week doing something we don't enjoy so we can try to enjoy the other 2/7. It's so backwards and so ridiculous. In fact, you know when there's more recorded deaths in our country than any other time? There are more recorded deaths in our country between the hours of 7 and 8 a.m. Monday morning. People waking up to jobs they don't like. And ends up killing them, literally. When you're doing what you love, you put in the work. You put in the time. When you're not doing what you love, you cut in the corners. You're not going to be nearly as successful. So why are we not doing quality number one? If quality number one across the boards, by the way, for those of us that want to listen, I want to know what are these qualities of successful people. Number one, they're pursuing their interests. They're pursuing their passions. Pretty simply, they're doing what they love, which is really what the society is about, helping you discover and achieve your dreams. And the second quality of successful people is what enables you to achieve the first. The second quality of successful people is that they have a vision. We talked about vision earlier with regards to the money. What is vision? Vision is the ability to see what does not yet exist. I'm going to give you an example of an interview. This was an interview done years ago. This was actually done about the time that I was born. So I didn't do this interview, obviously. This is an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the interviewer says to Arnold Schwarzenegger, you just won Mr. Olympia 6 times. He won 5 times in a row. He won Mr. Olympia 6 times. It was so incredible, so unheard of, that the interviewer says, what do you plan on doing with your life now? Arnold Schwarzenegger turns to the interviewer and says something which was ridiculous. He turns to the interviewer and he says, with no acting ability, no experience or anything, all he did was bodybuilding up to this point. He says to the interviewer, I plan on becoming one of the biggest stars Hollywood has ever seen. Interviewer did what? Laughs in his face. The whole world started mocking Schwarzenegger when he did this. Why? Because we're going up with these big guys in the movies, Van Damme's and Rocky movies and, all these movies with these jack guys. Back then it was unheard of to have a big guy in the movies. And that was actually considered an awkward build. So the interviewer starts laughing at him. Because to boot, with his thick, heavy accent, which I'm not going to attempt to imitate, with his thick, heavy accent, as he's speaking there, and this considered awkward build, it was so ridiculous that the whole world started mocking Schwarzenegger. And so when the interviewer turns to him and laughs in his face and says, how the heck do you plan on doing that? He looks at the interviewer dead in the eyes. And he says, I plan on doing it exactly the way I did it with bodybuilding. I have a vision of how I'm going to be, and I'm going to fill my body into that vision. And he did. Did he do the same thing with political office? You bet it. The power of vision. What do you envision? What do you picture? Or do you? Most of us don't. Most of us don't envision, and then when we do envision, we're not envisioning ourselves being successful. Why? It's the world we're growing up in. Take a look at this for a moment. They did a study, the National Parent Teachers Association, the NPTO, they did a study and they found that we receive 8 negative criticisms for every 1 positive. Take a look in the first grade. 80% of kids in the first grade have a positive self-image. You know that when you go just to the 6th grade, only 10% have a positive self-image? Well, holy crap, how about us as adults or in college? First grade to 6th grade, we went from 80 to 10, and here's the thing. Those kids don't realize when they go from 1st to 6th what's happening. It's the lenses through which they see the world, and all the criticisms, what they think is possible changes. And here's the thing for ourselves right now. We've been in this world much longer, and we have all these limitations, and these lenses are there, and we don't even realize they're there. And part of what I want to do right now is point out the lenses. Because very successful people, highly successful people, are able to get rid of these social constraints and limitations and go after the things they want. But the first thing is to realize that they're there. Everything you're hearing right now as I'm speaking, you're filtering through these lenses. What you believe is possible on a daily basis is all filtered through these daily lenses that you use that you've been conditioned. But you got to realize that they're there. I'll give you an example. Elephants are known for phenomenal memory. You ever hear that the elephant's memory is supposed to be amazing? What they do, if you ever go to the circus and you see them, you see the elephant's there, and the elephant's going to stand still. And if there's a little wooden rope around the elephant's ankle and a stake in the ground, it'll stand still. It won't snap it, and it can. That elephant can just snap that rope, snap that stake right out of the ground, but it won't. Why? Because when it's a baby elephant, you know what they do? They take a heavy metal stake, they bang the heavy metal stake into the ground, they put this heavy metal chain around the elephant's ankle, and this elephant learns, I can't break away, I can't break away. There's something around my ankle, I can't break away. Now it grows up as an adult elephant, you know what happens? It's conditioned. There's a chain around my ankle, I can't break away. Question. What chains do you have around your ankles? You don't realize that they're there, so it's a difficult question to ask. Let me give you, forgetting elephants, let me give you some examples of humans. Right? Better than elephants. The 4-minute mile. We thought it was physically, humanly impossible to break the 4-minute mile. Nobody had ever broken the 4-minute mile since the beginning of people keeping records, for centuries. Until one man comes along, Roger Bannister. And we thought it was impossible. So nobody had ever done it. One year, one man comes along named Roger Bannister. You know what he does? He breaks the 4-minute mile, 4.59 something, just tenths of a second under 4 minutes. So he breaks this record. The world is amazed. Oh my God, the human body has the potential to break the 4-minute mile. It was an amazing feat. We thought it would never happen. He broke the record in about, I think it was May. So quite a bit into the year. Later that same year, 12 people break the 4-minute mile. The following year, over 300 people break the 4-minute mile. What happened? Did people all of a sudden become better athletes? Did the human body change? No, one thing changed. Expectation. That lens and that filter that says you can't do it has changed and it's gone now. The expectation is that it's achievable. I'll give you another example, drive it home even more with regards to students, right? We're all students, or most of us are students here. Student comes into class. Sits down, takes an exam, paper exam, walks up to the professor afterwards, hands it in. Now, the student, he came into class late, so he didn't hear the professor make any announcements before class. As he's handing it in, he gives the paper to the professor, and he says, listen, professor, those couple of problems on the board, we don't have to do those problems, do we? This is our exam, right? Because you just wanted to double check? And the professor says, oh, you weren't here at the beginning of the class. Those two problems on the board are part of your exam. But I'll tell you what, see you're pressed for time, write them down, working them over the weekend, hand it in on Monday. The student's really excited. He's like, cool. So he writes down the questions. The student works in these two questions all weekend long, works his butt off on them, hands it in Monday morning or the next morning. The following morning, there's a knock on his door. Boom, 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 boom. He opens up the door, and it's the professor, and he says, Professor, what are you doing here? It's the professor telling him, listen, George, you came into class late. You didn't hear me tell the rest of the class that if you want to play with mathematics for the rest of your life, play with these two problems. Even Einstein couldn't solve them, and you did. Expectation is so powerful in the results that you produce in your life. What do you expect? Would the student have even attempted them if he heard the professor's expectation of not achieving them? No way. You're going out to play sports. You expect to win. You're in a job interview. Do you see yourself and envision getting it? Do you expect to get it? You are asking somebody out on a date. Do you expect to get a yes? Or do you see yourself getting slammed? What goes on in your mind? Do you have the positive expectation?
Welcome back. Now, I got to tell you, if you didn't get anything from Gary's video, the thing that stuck out to me was the statement that he made that it's not what is that holds us back. It's what we think that is that stops us. So the question that we're asking you is, what do you expect? Do you expect to win or do you expect to lose? This is all part of your belief system. It goes back to what my mom used to always tell me as a child. She said, Joe, until you can see yourself as you could be, you'll never be what you should be. How do you see yourself? Well, I'm not going to just take your word for it. Right now, we're going to go to your workbooks, and we're going to do an exercise that's going to help you examine your beliefs. Now, if you go to your workbook, you'll see a page entitled, I Believe. Now, there's two parts to this exercise, but the first one I want you to really pay attention to. And you see that I have a quote by Marshall Weeder on the top of it. It says that your beliefs are never neutral. They either move you forward or hold you back. And you can choose what you believe. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the blanks at the top that says, when it comes to my intelligence, I believe blank. I want you to quickly write down what you believe when it comes to your intelligence. When it comes to your self-confidence. When it comes to my self-confidence, I believe what? And so on throughout the list. Okay, now that you've looked at the kind of belief that you would like to have, now is the time I'm asking you to step out of your comfort zone. Remember we said in the beginning that you have to be open and be honest. So what I want you to do right now, I want you to pair up with someone that you see in the room with you, and I want you to discuss some of your beliefs and what you like to believe, and even discuss some of your limiting beliefs. Now, if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, that's okay. You can only discuss what you feel comfortable discussing. But I think that it's important that you understand that you're not in this thing alone, that you'll be surprised to see that other people struggle with certain other beliefs that may be your strengths. So right now, I want you to take 5 minutes, partner up with someone, and talk and discuss your beliefs. Now, I know that good and well that most of you want to achieve success in your life. You've already set goals for yourself, things you like to do. But the problem is, it's not in what we want, but most of the time we're not willing to pay the necessary price to get what we want. See, instead of us standing and stay, we decide to retire and retreat from our goals and our objectives. And the thing is not to get discouraged. So I'm going to have you challenge yourself to look at some of the things that you may fear, some of the things that may be stopping you from achieving the success that you truly want to have. I'll give you a great story, for instance. My sister, I have a younger sister, I told you. When we were younger, growing up, when we were about 15, my sister told us that she wanted to become a doctor. And we thought that was nice that, she had such big aspirations. But my sister had a small problem. She didn't like math or science. Now, we thought, well, how can you possibly become a doctor if you don't like math and science? But she believed that I don't care. She told us that she wanted to come up with cures for incurable diseases. And she wanted to help the terminally ill. So we believed in her and kind of humored her, because most people don't believe in your dreams because they can't see themselves doing the thing that you want to do. So we kept encouraging until she graduated from high school, and she decided she wanted to go to pharmacy school to get her pharmacy degree, then later on go to med school. Now, she shocked us all, and she was able to pass pharmacy school, and she was applying for med school. Well, she got into med school, even though she barely almost flunked out of undergrad school and trying to get into medical school. She decided that, she says, well, Joe, maybe I made a bad choice because I'm not making the grades I need to be making, and right now I'm struggling in this class called organic chemistry. And they're giving me all these bad letters about how tough it is and that they're going to kick me out if I don't get a better grade on the next test. So she decided to ask her friends for advice, and you pay close attention. She asked her friends for advice. Well, her friends, who were not aspiring to be doctors, told her, well, you need to pick something easier. No one told you had to become a doctor. School was never meant to be that difficult. She went to my father, who came back in our lives several years later, and my dad told her, he said, well, why don't you get into something easy? You can always now teach at a college, putting down in my career. So she said, no, I don't want to do that. She said, well, you should consider that, because right now I don't think you're going to make it out of med school. She went to my mother, and my mom gave her some advice that my sister didn't receive very well. You know how your mothers are sometimes. Well, it doesn't matter what you do. We're going to be proud of you anyway. He said, I don't care if you become a janitor. We're going to be happy. We're going to love you anyway. And, of course, that was not what my sister wanted to hear, so she began to get discouraged. She didn't think she could make it. So she calls up her big brother, me, and she was crying and in tears. She said, Joe, I don't think I'm going to make it through college. I don't think that I have what it takes. And, my friends are telling me I need to change my career decision. My dad is telling me I need to go some other place. He said, you won't believe what Mom told me. I said, what did Mom tell you? She wants me to become a janitor, and I don't want to become a janitor. So, and I'm thinking, Mom wants her to become a janitor? What is she talking about? So she said, Joe, I want to know from you, what do you think I should do? She was faced with a challenge. She was easily getting discouraged about all the peer pressure she was receiving from even her own family. Now, I got to tell you, I'm being totally honest with you, the first thought that popped in my head when my sister said, what do you think I should do? I got a flashback of my sister eating dirt when we were kids. I didn't think doctor material. So I'm thinking, I was getting ready to tell her, don't do it. Find something easy, but I caught myself. And I realized that this wasn't my dream. This was her dream. So I asked her a better question. I said, how bad do you want to become a doctor? She said, Joe, I want it more than anything in life. I said, Joe, I want to do something for my community. I want to help people who can't help themselves. I want to find a cure for some of these diseases. So I told my sister, I said, Penny, I don't care what happens. Don't you quit. Don't you give up. I said, I don't care if the school has to kick you out. Don't you drop out. See, we have to understand there's a big difference between quitting in life and failing in life. See, we're all going to fail. I haven't met a person yet who hasn't failed at something. But see, failure is temporary. Quitting is permanent. Remember, we started with everything's a choice. You choose what you believe, and you choose on how you're going to face your challenges. Are you going to stick, stand, and stay, or are you going to move through that pain? Well, my sister decided a choice to stick it out, and she became the first doctor in our family. I just talked to her a couple of weeks ago. She's getting ready to start her own clinic for AIDS patients because she wants to find a cure for AIDS. Now, it shocks me that this girl who I grew up with, who used to eat dirt, had enough persistence to stick to her dreams to pursue it. Now, people look at my life and they say, Joe, you've overcome a lot in your life, but my sister is my hero because no one ever thought she would do anything that she's doing. Most people are not surprised that I was able to overcome a lot of my odds, but my sister is a miracle walking because she's a testimony of what you can do when you believe in yourself. And that key is a choice. So you are going to face some challenges. Now we're going to examine purpose. And now, I know that's not a topic that's discussed a lot on college campuses, but I think it's the most important topic that you can ever discuss. Now, when I go across the country, I'm typically asking students all over, what's the most important decision you can ever make in your life that 97% of the people will never make? Let me say that again. 97% of people will never make the most important decision of their life. What is that decision? Now, I can tell you from doing probably over 100 different presentations, only 2 people have ever come up with the answer. One was an 8th grader. And the answer to that question is deciding your purpose for living. Now, I know that sounds real philosophical, but we can break it down for you. It's not just deciding your purpose for living. It's deciding why you exist. Too complicated? Let's make it even more simple. Deciding why you're breathing. It's the most important decision of your life. Now, for some of you who may think that breathing is not that important, well, stop doing it right now. And you will realize that you will not want to hold your breath for long. So the question is, why is that air going in and out of your lungs? Now, I'm going to make a statement that will probably be controversial on a lot of your campus, but you got to understand I am a professor, so I'm qualified to make this statement. College will never answer the most important questions of your life. There's 4 questions that we all will ask. I don't care what your gender is, your race, your religion, it doesn't matter. We're all searching for 4 answers to 4 questions. Here are the 4 questions. 1, who am I? 2, why am I here? 3, where am I going? And 4, how do I get there from here? Now, I've been teaching for over a decade. I have not read a book yet or taught a class that answers those questions. Now, college is a great thing. It's an opportunity for you to get into a gainful employment. But they do not answer those questions. Those are questions that you must seek out for yourself and find answers to those questions. Well, we here at the Society, we want to help you along that process and get into those answers. But let me kind of summarize basically what your journey in life probably will be. If you ever want to find out what you're most passionate about, what your purpose in life, it's fairly simple. Look at your life and your gifts, your talents as being a gift. Now, if you've ever bought or purchased a gift for someone, obviously you have a gift that you picked out, that you selected. Well, that gift that you have right now is yours. It's what you are. It's your essence. It's your being. Now, if you have a gift is only as good as who you give it to. Now, and how they respond. So the question is, 1, what is your gift? That's the journey you must take in life, to identify what your gift is. Next, to identify who you want to give your gift to. And third, how do you want to give that gift? Is it going to be wrapped beautifully? It's attractive. How do you want to give it? Well, we're going to go through that process in helping you do that. But before we do that, and I'm going to show you a great clip from a great speaker that's going to talk to you about that passion. But before we do that, let me share with you my personal journey. Now, it's not the greatest journey on how to find your passion, but it worked for me, and I don't highly recommend it because you can waste a lot of time. Now, when I was in my senior year in college, I graduated early at the age of 20, but I was 19 years old. I took a teaching job. Now, my major was communication. I was learning how to be a PR person, so I was going to work in a PR firm. That was my dream. Well, like most college students, I was broke in my senior year, and I needed some extra money. And this lady approached me while I was working in a mall, and I was selling cameras in the electronics section. And she never bought anything, but she came in our store for 2 weeks straight. And she was an older lady, probably about maybe 60-something, and it kind of freaked me out because here I am 19, and this 60-year-old is looking at me. So I'm thinking, she's not buying anything. So I got so frustrated, I went up to the lady, I said, "Ma'am, may I help you?" And she looked at me and she said, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" Just out of the blue. I'm in the mall, in a camera store selling electronics. I said, "No, ma'am, I never thought about teaching." And I said, why would I ever want to teach? She said, "Because you have the gift." I'm like, "What gift?" She said, "The gift to be able to educate." I said, "Well, ma'am, first of all, you're talking about teaching. Don't you have to like kids?" "I don't like children." And she says, "Well, no, you don't have to like kids to teach." And I'm like, "Come on, lady, you're crazy now. What do you mean you don't have to like kids?" She said, "No, a lot of teachers don't have children. You have to love teaching children." I said, "Well, that sounds good, but what makes you think that I will be a good teacher?" And she looked at him and she says, "I've been coming in your store for 2 weeks. She said, "You don't know a thing about cameras, do you?" I said, "Well, no, ma'am, I don't." She said, "But however, I've seen customers come in your store and you have communicated them what this camera does. And they've actually bought the camera, but yet you just told me you didn't know anything about cameras." She said, "How are you able to talk to them about cameras if you don't know that much about them?" I said, "Well, ma'am, what I do is on my break, I go in the back and I read the manuals. And that stuff is so technical and so complicated. So what I do is I just kind of break it down for them so they can understand it." She said, "That's what a teacher does." I said, "Well, ma'am, what, are you offering me a job or something?" She said, "Yes, I am. I would like you to come teach at my school as an intern." I said, "Well, how much?" See, and I want you to catch the question that I asked. I didn't say, "How will I serve? How can I help? Who will I reach?" My motives weren't right. I said, "How much?" And she said, "Well, since you're an intern, you won't get paid that much. You only get paid $7.50 an hour." Now, I got to tell you, at 19 years old, $7.50 an hour, it may not be a lot of money now, but to me, I would have dressed up in a Barney outfit and a tutu for that kind of money. So I said, "Yes, I'll take the job." And do you know I quit that same day? But you notice something happened. She asked me would I take the job, but I didn't ask, 1, who was I teaching? 2, where was I teaching? I just accepted the job because I wanted the money. Well, I went to the school, and I found out, 1, it was in a bad neighborhood. Strike 1. Should ask more questions. Then I noticed it had elementary on the front of the school. Strike 2. I'm teaching little kids. Then I walked into this room, and I opened the door, and there was 26 kids snotty nose and everything, looking at me. And I was their new teacher. And I'm thinking, I made the biggest mistake in my life. And you know, kids at that age, they're 6 and 7 years old. They don't know how to lie to you, so they tell you the truth. They tell you what's ever on their mind. And they're looking at me, we don't like you. And I didn't say a word yet. And you're short, too. And they were picking at my height and everything. So I wanted to leave and run and see if I can get my old job back. And the lady, Miss Hutto, she said, Joe, where are you going? I said, they don't like me. I can't teach these kids. She said, Joe, no, because they don't know you and they just lost the teacher they loved. I was like, that's even worse. She said, no, Joe, you should do it. This is where you need to belong. So I got to tell you, to make a long story short, I loved it. I would have done that job for free, which is a good sign to find out your passion, something that you're willing to do where you don't get paid to do it. And I loved the job so much that I thought, wow, this is my calling. But I had one small problem. Man, my motives weren't right. How much money do teachers make? Not much. And I came from the projects. I don't want to go back. So when I graduated the next year, Miss Hutto, she says, Joe, after I left the teaching job, she says, so you're going to go back and get your master's degree in education, aren't you? I said, no, ma'am. She said, Joe, you're not going to become a teacher? I said, no, ma'am. She said, Joe, why not? I said, because you don't get paid much. And I don't want to spend my life making your type of salary. This lady never said a mean word to me until that day. She said, Joe, you look at me. She grabbed me by the shirt. She said, I don't care what you do. She said, you're going to end up teaching. I said, whatever, Miss Hutto. Well, you're crazy. Well, I'm a professor today. And I go around working with educators all over the country. Ms. Huddles was right. Now, I told you that I wouldn't recommend how I did it because the way I found my passion was running away from it. I knew I was called to teach, but I tried to outrun my gift, my talent. And guess what I found out? That you don't have to try to find your purpose. If you run away from it long enough, it'll find you. So now we're going to talk about the steps on how you can find your purpose. But before we do that, I want to show you a video clip from Alan Dershowitz. Now, that name rings a bell to you because he's probably one of the most famous defense attorneys in the country. Some of his clients, he's had clients, 10 billionaires has been his clients. But some of his famous clients that you may recognize, Mike Tyson, O.J. Simpson. Now, withhold your judgment until you hear this guy. He is awesome. But I want you to take a look at his clip and see if you can catch the key point in this video clip.
Passion. We all think a lot of passion, but passion is not only reserved for the bedroom. Passion has to be a part of every aspect of your life. You have to be passionate. You have to work passionately toward the goals that you want to achieve. You have to see the world as the object of your passion. You can't just go into your work and into your life saying, well, today I get through this part of my work. Tomorrow I get through that part of my work. I have a friend who is a great lawyer, just retired after many years. And I think he looks back at his career and says, I haven't been successful. Made a lot of money, but he'll tell you he hasn't been successful. Why? He never got passionate about his work. He was passionate about his hobbies, and he would go to work every day looking at his watch, trying to figure out how much more time until 5 or 6 o'clock so we can get to his real passions, making furniture and sailing boats. And he did that great, but he never really saw his life, his work, in a passionate way. He became cynical about his work. I think you got to get a job that you're passionate about. You got to get a job. I've been very lucky. I get up every morning and I say to myself, oh my God, I can't wait to get to work. What's going to be the day today? What's it going to bring me? I can't wait to get to my classes. I can't wait to hear what the students have to say. Now, I admit my life is not typical. My typical day is not the typical day of most people in boring jobs. I get to work in the morning and I meet some of the brightest students in the world in my classes. I then get a call from a head of state somewhere who's about to be indicted, or I get a call from Larry King asking me to be on his show that night, or I get a call from an op-ed writer for the Times or some other newspaper saying, would you like to write a piece for us? I live a very, very exciting life, but it's also a life where I get a call from 6 or 7 people who hate me, one who threatens me, and my mother, 91 years old, who's still disappointed in me. And so the day is always full of unexpected events. But every day I get up waiting to get to work. I also like to get home, but I like to get to work. I enjoy my work enormously, and I can never imagine myself being in the kind of job where you just look at your watch and think about what the end of the day is going to look like. Now, you know, there's a favorite expression that people always have, and that's don't have deathbed regrets. Don't look back in your life and have regrets. And we've all heard the cliche that nobody on their deathbed ever regretted not having spent more time at the office. Sure, because the only people we ever hear from are people who have achieved a high degree of professional success and maybe have had to sacrifice a little in their personal and private life. We never hear from the people who should regret not having spent more time at the office. These are the people who failed to achieve their potential because they were lazy, because they didn't work hard enough, because they had misplaced priorities. We rarely hear their deathbed regrets.
Welcome back. Now, I'm hoping that you caught one of the key elements, at least for me, when I was watching that video clip. He said something. He says, you do not want to have deathbed regrets. See, a lot of us, you know, we always think that we cannot be harmed, that we're all going to live forever. But do you realize that when we get to the end of our road, pretty much we're all going to ask one or two questions. We're all going to look back and say, man, boy, I'm glad I did. Or boy, I wish I had. Now, the question is that what are you going to say when you get to the end of your road? Now, I'm going to do something for you that I've done for my students that they think is kind of depressing, but I think it kind of brings the reality of why when we get ready to do this next exercise, it's so important to understand what your gifts are. Because you can't give away something you don't know you have. So we're going to help you identify your gifts. But I want you to really take a real good picture, a real good look at where you stand in life. Do you realize now, as long as you've been watching this training video right now, do you realize we're all a step closer to death than we were before we started watching? Doesn't that kind of freak you out a little bit when you just think about it? Right now, I just talked for like 3 seconds. You're 3 seconds closer to death than you were before. And you're getting closer and closer. No one moves farther away from death. So when Alan Dershowitz was talking about having those deathbed regrets, the fact is, what are we doing as we get closer and closer to that inevitable death? Now, I don't know about you. I don't want you to get depressed. I don't get depressed thinking about that one day I may die because I'm too busy living. And we want you to be passionate about what you do. You want to be a great leader, you got to be on fire, that other people come to you to get a light. So what we're going to do, I want you to go to your workbooks right now. We're going to do a great exercise that I think that's probably going to be your favorite exercise in the whole program, and it's called the gift game. And right now, I want you to go to your sheet where it says the gift game. And you're going to notice that there's a list of what we call gifts. Now, understand there's probably 10,000 gifts that we can define that people have. But based on research, we're talking about a 30-year research of over probably 10,000 different types of people in different professions. We found that we can narrow it down to about 52. Now, what I want you to do, now I want you to ignore the bottom half of that worksheet right now and just look at the top. And you'll notice that there's 4 columns. And you'll see that at the top of the page it says, 1, that's definitely me. 2, I'm not sure that's me. And 3, that's definitely not me at all. Now, I want you to go down that column, from column to column, until you get to through all 52. And I want you to either write a 1, a 2, or a 3. 1, if that's definitely you. 2 is I'm not sure that's me. Or 3, that's not me at all. And just to give you some help, I'll go through the first one just for myself personally. Bring out potential. I'll let you take a guess at that. That's definitely me. That's a 1 for me. And we look at the next one. Sell intangibles. I would say that's me sometimes. I sell the intangible because purpose is not really tangible. Open doors. I would say that's sometimes me. See possibilities. Definitely me. That's a 1 for me. Make connections. I say a 2 sometimes. Straighten things up. That's a 1 for me. I'm anal retentive. Okay. Build things. That's definitely not me. I will pay someone quick to fix something. And I think you get the point. So the fact is, I want you to go through the whole list right now. Again, you're only focusing on the top, and we're going to come back. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to quickly go through it. Do not think too much on this exercise. The first thing that pops into your head, I want you to write it down. So go right now. 5 minutes. Let's do it. All right, now you should have completed that exercise. Now, some of it might have been a little bit tough for some of you. And just, I know that usually we get a lot of questions about some of the gifts on the sheet. And I'll pick one in particular that tends to be one that people ask me a lot about. They said, Joe, what do you mean by, as far as composing things? And typically what we're referring to when it comes to a gift of composing things, we're talking about tying things together. Now, my wife actually has this as one of her gifts, and she's an event planner. So she likes not only planning and organizing things, but having things have a meaning behind it and they connect to other thoughts. Another thing that kind of to the right of that, if you look at your sheet, it says use body to have fun. Now, you can take that a lot of different ways, but let me explain what that means. Using your body to have fun. Some people like taking risks by high skydiving, that type of stuff, where they do extreme sports, that type of thing. They live on the edge because they like living dangerously with their bodies because they want to see how far they can take their bodies to the limits. So that's what we're referring to. But now that you've done that and you've probably put the 1, 2, or 3 next to them, I want you to go now to the second half of the sheet. Now, I'm just going to kind of explain to you what it's for, and then you're going to break out and do this yourself for about, it should probably take you no more than 5 minutes. But I want you to look at the bottom half of your sheet. It says, now, for every gift that you put a 1 next to in the top, I want you to write it down in the column below under that's definitely me. And let me repeat that again. Every gift, look back up to the top, where every place where you put a 1, I want you to have a list of about 15 spots that you can put down that's definitely me. Now, if you have more than 15, that's okay. Just write on the back of your sheet and put down the rest of them. Now, I can tell you right now, if you have a lot of them, we're going to narrow it down. Don't get worried. But right now, I want you to write down all of those down to the left side, every one that you put a 1 next to. Now, after you do that, you're going to go to your middle column where it says, what do I usually give to others, to most people? What do I give the most? And now you have to know yourself and think about it for yourself. If it's something like bringing out potential, do I give that the most? Now, you're going to look at the one you put down in column 1, which said that's definitely me, and I want you to pick your top 10. And you're going to put it in that middle column. Your top 10 ones. Now, if it's less than 10, it's no problem. That's even better. But if it's 10, I want you to stop at 10. That means you're going to have to make some tough choices. That means you will have to cut some of your ones. But you're going to stop at 10 as your max. Then you're going to go to the third column, which is number 2. It says, what others say that I give the most. Now, I want you to think of your associations, people that you spend a lot of time with. They know your gifts. It's amazing how I can look at, if I know someone, I can probably pick out their gift before they can pick it out because I've spent a lot of time, quality time with that person. So what we want you to do is take the 10 that you have or less, and now you're going to narrow it down to 5. These are all ones that you picked originally. And you're going to put down, what do others say you give the most? Next, you're going to go to number 3. It says, what do I get most excited about giving to others? Alan mentioned that in his video clip about being passionate. Now, out of those things you put down under the 5 or maybe less, write down at the max 3 things that you get most excited about giving. Now, the last part is going to be something we're going to do on the next page, in which you're going to fill that in later. But for now, I want you to go through this list, and we're going to take, we'll take about another 5 to 7 minutes for this one. Okay, do it right now. Welcome back. Now, I got to tell you, you should be very excited about finishing the gift worksheet, at least put down the things that are your top choices as things that are most like you. Because the reason why you should get excited, because most people go their whole lives not knowing what they feel that they're good at. Now you know that. But remember, we described early on that we're talking about a gift. So a gift needs to be given to someone. So if you go to your workbook right now, you'll see there's a page that says sharing your gifts. So turn to that page real quickly, and you'll see this. Now that you've discovered and unwrapped your, quote, gift, you need to determine who could benefit from your gift the most. In other words, who would you like to share your gift with the most? I got to tell you, this is one of the most exciting parts for me, because this is when the clouds started opening. You said, aha, I got it. Now I know what direction I need to head in. Now understand, we've tried to list and exhaust any possible receiver of your gift per se, and I don't know how many are on this list, but it's quite a few of them. But you notice we even put some blank spaces at the bottom, so if we didn't come up with something that you have thought of, you can write it down. But you'll see we start from women to men to parents, single parents, all the way down to animals and wildlife and pets. Think about your gift that you put in those 3 slots, and it could have been 1, 2, or 3 gifts, and who you would like to give that gift the most. We want you to take 5 minutes just to browse the list and circle any group that you may be interested in. It doesn't matter how many. because you're not going to be interested in all of them. Just circle the ones that you're interested in. You have 5 minutes to do that right now. Welcome back. Now, I got to tell you, I'm excited. I don't know how excited you are, but I'm excited that you've gone this far in this particular exercise, because now we're going to the last step of finding your purpose and understanding your gifts. And it's a question I get asked by probably 9 out of 10 students every time we talk about purpose and finding your passion. And here's the question. Okay, it's great. I understand what my gift is. I know what I want to do, but how do I make money doing that? See, we're concerned about several things that keep us from living our purpose. One, we're afraid, what if I'm wrong? Will I ever make money doing that? What will my friends and my family think if I do that? What if I fail at doing it? Well, we've already talked about fear and overcoming your challenges, but we're going to talk about how can you make a living doing that, because I think that alleviates a lot of fear. And there's a worksheet that you're going to work on, and this is the next sheet called Expanding Your Gifts. And I want you to turn to that sheet right now. And I love this particular exercise because it explores all the different ways that you can possibly use your gifts to serve others. Remember, you have a gift, you have a group you decided you want to give it to, and now you can determine how you want to give that to them. Now, I can tell you right now, this sheet alone is worth millions, because you're going to realize that it's going to be your plan for the rest of your life. And I'll give you an example by using me as an example in my gifting and my talent and how this has changed my life. Remember when I told you the story about Miss Hutto and I didn't want to go into teaching because they didn't what? They didn't make a lot of money. So I thought, wow, but I decided to bite the bullet. I said, hey, it doesn't matter about money. I just want to give back and serve kids. Understand, children and students, college students and students who want to learn and have a desire to learn. That was who I wanted to give my gift to. And what was my gift? Bringing out potential. That was my top gift. So I said, I want to do that, but I found out that, wow, I really wasn't making a lot of money. Then I found out one of the biggest mistakes we make in choosing our careers. We look at our careers in a linear fashion as opposed to looking at it in a wide fashion. Because when we look at things in a linear fashion, we look at how many people have had jobs doing that thing and how much money do they make, as opposed to asking a better question, which I love, is how can I serve more people doing this? In other words, I know my gift. I know who I want to give it to. How can I give it to more people? Now, I want you to look at that sheet. And you're going to work on this by yourself, but I'm going to show you how this works. Now, look at the top, and I'm going to fill in the blank for me. When it comes to your gift, talent, ability, which is mine, is bring out potential. Would you like to, and let's go down the list, write about it? And what do we mean by write about it? Now, with my gift to bring out potential, could I possibly write about it? Yes, I've written 7 books about what I love to teach about. Can I sell it? Of course you can sell it, because guess what? People buy books. They buy products. Do I want to promote it? On television, I have my own television show, and I host a radio show right now. Are you seeing that now I'm getting out of the box? I'm still a teacher, but now I'm serving more people doing it. Do I want to plan and organize it? Yes, I've planned my own seminars around what I teach. You can consider this medium right here as being a seminar. Can I speak about it? Of course I speak about it about 60, 70 times a year. And now you can see we can go down the list on and on. Now, if you haven't caught on to the little clue about this thing, could you imagine that those things could keep me busy for the rest of my life? So you know the word I should never use when I'm using my gift and talent to serve others? That I'm bored. There's not enough time in a day to do all of these things. And if you ever feel like you're bored, that means you haven't tapped into your passion. You can't possibly complete all these things before you die. But the great thing about it is, guess what I found out? The things that you circled on this list and you start to apply them, guess what I found out? People will pay you for that stuff. That's how you make a living. So stop asking how much you can make and look at how many more people can you serve. So right now I want you to spend I would say about 5 minutes. Well, we're going to make it 10 minutes because I want you, after you fill this out, to work and get in with your partner and discuss different career opportunities, different jobs that you might explore based on some of the things that you circled. You notice we don't have any professions listed on this list. Guess what? Because your purpose is not a profession. Jobs change, careers change, industry changes, but your gift never changes. So I want you to go through this list, and you want you to circle only the top headers of things that apply to you. And once you circle the top header, like let's say, for instance, I put write about it. Then I want to explore that write about it category, and then I would circle maybe newspaper, because I've done a column for a newspaper, books, newsletters. These are things that I've done, grants. And you circle those things, and then you get with your partner, and for an additional 5 minutes, it's going to be a total of 10 minutes, you're going to talk about different career opportunities you can explore. I just happen to explore being a professor. But really, I have no job title, and you don't need a job title to make a living. You just need to make a difference. So take 10 minutes right now to do that. Welcome back. Now, I hope you're as excited as I am about completing that exercise. I know the first time I went through it with my class, they were so excited about now maybe looking at exploring different majors, looking at different career opportunities, taking internships. I hope you're getting excited as I am. And you will realize now that you don't have to worry about making an income when you're focusing on making a difference. Now, that was purpose. Now we're going to go to the next topic, which I think is probably the toughest step in this whole program, but also the easiest. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. And it's our ability to take action. And we're going to talk about action right now. Now, I got to tell you, I believe that there's some major lies, or what I call half-truths, that we've learned in life. And some of you already know, and you probably complete the sentences for me, that experience is the best teacher. That's a half-truth. Experience is not the best teacher. It's a good teacher. Guess what's a better teacher? Other people's experience. That's what we call a half-truth. Another one that you're probably familiar with is not what you know, it's who you know. Half-truth. No, it's not. It's good to know somebody, but guess what? If they don't know you, it doesn't matter. It's who knows you. And you also heard this other half-truth too. Oh, I'll believe it when I see it. That's half-truth. No, you'll see it once you believe it. Again, getting over those limiting beliefs. But the reason I mention those lies is because I think that fourth lie that we're going to talk about right now, and you can complete the sentence. Knowledge is power. That's a half-truth. Knowledge is good, but it's only potential power until you apply the power. And see, I said that this is the toughest part of the whole training program, because as simple as it sounds, Joe, take action, we could do that. It's one of the most difficult things to do, because we want to do a lot of things, but we're not willing to take the necessary steps to do it. You don't believe me? All you got to do is think about how many great business ideas you've ever come up with. And then about maybe 6 months later, you saw someone on television with the same idea, and you say, hey, I thought of that. And then you get mad. They stole my idea. No, what they did is they took action before you did. So the thing is, we want to get you to take some action. And so you have to get past that lie that knowledge is power. Because if all you have is knowledge, all you have is trivia in your mind. And I'll give you a great example. My mom, when I decided I was going to go off to college. Now, my mom never finished high school. And she knew I was going off to college. And then I was probably maybe my junior year. And my mom came to me and she says, Joe, I'm thinking about, maybe I should go back and get my GED so I can go to college. I'm thinking, Mama, you don't have to go to college now. My sister and I will take care of you. You don't have to work another day in your life. What are you worried about? She said, no, Joe, I want to go to college because I'm curious. I said, curious about what? She said, I want to know what makes you guys so stupid after you graduate. Now, I couldn't understand why she said it until I said, Mom, what are you talking about? She said, Joe, I see a lot of you kids go off to college. You learn a lot, but you don't do anything with what you learn. I'm thinking, she's absolutely right. So we have to apply the knowledge that we learn. Because I added something onto it. You know what they call people who know a lot of stuff but don't do a lot of stuff? Educated fools. And unfortunately, I work with a lot of them at my university, but I won't mention my college, okay? But we have to learn to take some action. And so right now I want to show you a video clip from a guy who I think is phenomenal, because he epitomizes taking action. His name is Jack Canfield. And some of you may never have heard of Jack Canfield, but you've probably heard of his book. He co-authored a book with Mark Victor Hansen called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now, the reason why we picked Jack for this particular video, and you're going to see he's going to talk about action, is the fact that he took massive action to fulfill his dreams and his goals. Now, I don't know if he's going to mention this in the clip, but I hope he talks about the process of what it took to get Chicken Soup for the Soul published. But he was turned down 140 times before it got published. So we're going to watch this video clip on Jack and what he talks about in taking action. Let's watch the clip.
All right. So let's look at a couple other principles here. Let's look at this one. I'm going to give away this book, and I'm going to put $25 in it to sweeten the deal here. So this book costs about $25, unless you go to Amazon or someplace like that. You can get it a little cheaper. So this is worth about $50 right now. And I'm going to give this away. Who would like this? It's yours. Congratulations. Excellent. Now, what did only 3 people in the room do that no one else did? Yeah, they got off their what? Their butt. Yes, exactly. Got off their butt. Now, here's the deal. One of the principles are written down is you got to take action. See, it's not enough to know this stuff. You got to do it. You got to take action. And action is critical to being successful. Now, some of you, as soon as those three people stood up, did anyone else kind of get the idea? Maybe that's the game. You got to go up there and get it. And yet, you didn't do it. And whatever kept you in your seat, whatever you told yourself is probably what keeps you on your butt in life. You know, like, what if he's like not serious? What if I go up there and he doesn't, this isn't the game, I just make a fool of myself? You know, all these reasons we're afraid. See, and one of the big actions you have to take is asking for what you want. And I wrote down on the handout, ask, 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 ask. You got to ask for what you want. And you got to ask a lot of people. See, as I said, there's 6.4 billion people on the planet. We had to ask 144 publishers to publish our book. Okay? I had to ask a lot of people out in college before I ever got a date. It was just the way it was. But if I'd have stopped, you know, at 100 people for my publishing thing, I wouldn't be standing here today. None of you would ever heard of me. So you got to be willing to ask. And one of the principles down there says reject rejection. So I want to basically explain to you that I think rejection is a myth. Rejection does not exist. So I'm going to go back to Tara here for a minute. If I were to ask Tara to have dinner with me after this and she said no, everyone would go, what is it? Tara. If I asked her and she said no, everyone would go, ooh, you got rejected. Not only in front of all these people, but 30,000 people on television saw you get rejected. But see, let's really examine this. Did I really get rejected? Did I have anyone to eat dinner with before I asked Tara? No. Did I have anyone to eat dinner with after I asked Tara? No. Did my life really get worse? No, it stayed the same. See? Let's just say David decided he wanted to go to pharmacy school. What's one you'd like to apply to? Rutgers. Okay, so let's say he applies to Rutgers and he doesn't get in. He wasn't in Rutgers before he applied. He's not in Rutgers after he applied. His life didn't get worse. In fact, he spent his whole life not going to Rutgers. He knows how to handle that, right? Now, more than likely, you will get in. You're a very bright young guy. You're a member of this organization. So the point is, you probably will. But see, rejection is a myth. And if there's something to gain by asking and nothing to lose, by all means ask. And one of the other principles says practice persistence. Practice the rule of 5. Never give up. Never give up. I have a friend who wanted to be a chiropractor in a town where they said they didn't need any more chiropractors. And the chiropractic office wouldn't even help him go out and establish a practice. There was a local association. So what he did was he went out, and for 6 months, he drew circles around where he wanted his office to be. And for 6 months, he started every morning at 8:30, and he knocked on doors till about 8 at night. And he would introduce himself, saying, I'm a new doctor in town. I'll be opening an office in 6 months. And he would ask them 4 questions. Should I call my practice this or that? Should I advertise in this paper or that paper? Should I stay open early in the morning for people with 9 to 5 jobs, or should I stay open from 5 to 7? And then he said, if I have an open house, would you like to receive an invitation? And anyone who said yes, he wrote their name down. 6 months later, he opened his office after knocking on 12,500 doors, talking to 6,500 people. His first month in practice, he made $72,000. He made over $1 million that year in a town that did not need another chiropractor. So again, never let anyone tell you what's possible. Don't ever give up on your dreams. You got to persevere no matter what, because you can have anything you want if you're willing to do that.
Now I got to tell you, I learned about this the hard way because I didn't realize that pretty much everybody's watching us. But I got to tell you, my first job right out of college, because I didn't think I wanted to become a teacher because I told you they didn't get paid enough. So I took my first job out of college was to be a PR professional. And I worked for the largest government agency in the country, the Social Security Administration. And when I took the job, as soon as I showed up on the job, I knew I was going to be, move up through the organization, make a lot of money, never forget about teaching. I'm not going to ever teach again, that type of stuff. I don't need to do that. And when I landed in this job, it ended up becoming the worst job of my life. Now, I could talk bad about the job, about how bad it was and everything, but I realize now that I was to blame because I chose, 1, to be there. They did not put a gun to my head and say I had to take the job. And 2, my bad attitude, believe it or not, affected other people around me. Well, I stayed on the job for 2 years, and people said, Joe, why in the world would you stay on a job you didn't like for 2 years? Because I was doing it for the wrong reasons. 1, because they had a great retirement plan. 2, the money was pretty good. And also, I was able to afford some things that I couldn't afford when I was a college student. But after 2 years, I realized I had to make a choice. It was either my salary or my sanity. So I decided I'm not going to be crazy and go bonkers in this place. I'm going to find me something that I love to do. So I decided I was going to quit, which was the best decision of my life. But I had to learn a very tough lesson. This is the lesson I'm hoping that you gain from this about your character. My boss asked to do an interview with me when I was leaving, which I thought was kind of weird. Why do we interview you when you're leaving a job? And I heard they're called exit interviews. Now, do not do what I did in this exit interview. The question that they always want to ask when you're leaving a job is, what could we have done to make this better? What could we have done to make your job easier, make you more effective? Well, I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. Let's put more of a boulder on my shoulder. And he asked me that question. I just told him off. First of all, there's nothing you could have done to make me like this job. I hate this job. I hate the people who work around this job. You could have given me your boss's job. I wouldn't want this job. Of course, I'm saying this because I'm leaving. What are you going to do, fire me? So I go through this tirade of telling how much I hated this job. And then he says, and he's sitting there with his boss. He says, Joe, are you done? And he taught me a valuable lesson that day. I said, yeah, I'm done. He said, well, Joe, can I ask you something else? I said, sure. What else you want to know? I'll tell you. He said, Joe, do you think this place was like this before you arrived, this work environment? I said, sure, I'm sure it was like that before I got here. He says, now, you've been here how long? I said, 2 years. He said, now that you're leaving, is it going to be that way when you leave it? I'm like, yeah. He said, so, Joe, I must apologize to you because you're right. We did waste your time. But you also wasted ours because our place is no better off than when you first came. That hit me like a ton of bricks to realize that I became part of the problem, not the solution. See, that's not good leadership skills. I cannot believe that I spent 2 years on a job and I didn't make it better than the way I found it. And that's when I realized that your character speaks so loudly about who you are that nobody can hear what you're saying. But I made a decision after I left that job that I would never allow that to happen to me again. Now, I got to tell you, I really pride myself on making sure that I'm a person of integrity. But I tell you, when you're really tested on your integrity around people that you love. And I got to tell you, when I got the news that my wife was pregnant and I was going to have a child, I got so excited. Because you got to understand, I did not have a father figure. And when I found out I was going to have a little boy, oh, I went crazy. I get to be a dad. I get to show him things. And then all of a sudden, that excitement turned to anxiety. Because I'm thinking to myself, what do I teach him first? Do I teach him about setting goals, about following his passion, about his gift, about his talent, about his faith? And all of a sudden, I started not being able to sleep. I started losing weight and thinking, my wife said, what are you stressing out for? I said, I don't know what I'm going to teach our son when he's born. She said, well, Joe, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then guess what? I did figure it out 2 months before she had the baby. I told my wife, I said, baby, I figured out, I know what I'm going to teach our son when he's born. She said, Joe, what are you going to teach him? I said, nothing. And she looked at me like I was crazy. He said, Joe, you mean you've been tossing and turning and you came up to the conclusion that you're excited about that you're going to teach him nothing? I said, baby, I'm not going to teach him anything. I'm going to show him everything. And my wife didn't understand it at first. And I said, baby, let me explain it this way. What better way to teach him how to respect a woman than to have him watch how I treat you? What better way to teach him about how to serve on his job than to have him come to my job with me and watch how I serve? What better way to get him to care about his community outside of his own home than to have him volunteer with me in the community? And those things my son has done. He's come to work and sat in my class and watch how I interact with my students. When he was 4 years old, we took him to his first soup kitchen to feed the homeless. He had the little apron on and everything. You know what he asked me at 4 years old? He asked me, he says, Dad, he said, they can't cook? I said, yes, son, they can cook. He said, Daddy, why are we feeding them? I said, baby, because they're less fortunate than we are. At 4 years old, he had no idea what we were actually doing. But did I plant a seed that he realized that Mom and Dad don't talk about the homeless problem in our city? We're doing something about it. See, what you are speaks so loudly, nobody's ever going to hear what you say. And the reason why we don't get the results we want through other people, because they're not listening to us. They're watching us. We got to ask ourselves, what kind of examples are we setting for other people? Now, I'll give you a quick test to find out if you're being a positive example and you're walking with good character and good integrity. Quick test that I do with a lot of educators. I ask them this question. If serving was a crime, would there be enough evidence on your job to convict you? If serving students in your organization was a crime, would there be enough evidence in your organization to convict you? Here's another good question. What if you were only paid based on what you gave to others? How long could you survive on the paycheck? If you were only compensated based on what you gave to others in service, how long could you survive on the paycheck? Here's a great question. If everyone in your organization was just like you, how would the other members respond? How would your faculty advisor respond? How would your vice president respond? How would your president of your organization respond if everyone in your organization was just like you? Well, here's my favorite question. Do you brighten up a room when you enter it or when you leave it? What a great question. That goes strictly to the core of your character and what you represent. Now, the great thing, I shouldn't be asking you these questions. See, the great thing about it, I should ask the people who you're around, because they will have an opinion about those answers to those questions for you. So I want you to check yourself to see if you're living with integrity, that you're leading with integrity. Now, I got to tell you, we've covered a lot of materials, and it's been a long time. I'm glad that you've been a pioneer, that you've lasted this long. And the first thing we want you to do, if you look at your workbook again, you'll see that there's something called a purpose statement. And you'll notice that when you did the gift gain worksheet and you went through the process of sharing your gift and expanding your gift, you realize now that you know what your gift is. Now, what I want you to do is fill in the blanks, and I'm going to share with you what I put in on my sheet. It said, my life's purpose is to use my gift was bringing out potential to help who? College students. That's who you're serving. So I put college students in there. Now, the last part I can't help you with. That's something you have to do on your own. To do what? What do you want to accomplish, your end result? Well, I'll tell you what I put in mine. So mine reads this way. My purpose in life is to use my gift to bring out potential to help college students to learn, lead, and live with passion. That's what I wrote. And what you're going to do, you should probably already know what I'm going to ask you to do. Now, if you feel uncomfortable sharing that with them, that's okay. You don't have to do it. But the reason why I'm asking you to do that, because I want you to have someone who's going to partner with you to hold you accountable to your purpose and your mission. My wife knows my mission, and I know hers. And whenever I feel like I can't go, because I'm telling you, even motivational speakers get tired sometimes. You need somebody to be your cheerleader. So this person now, you get to pick who your cheerleader will be. So please share that with them if you feel comfortable doing that. And if you go to the last page in your booklet, this is important. You've gone through a lot of hours sitting here going through this training program, and we want you to get credit for it. And the way you get credit for it, that you will complete that form in its entirety, and you will give that to your advisor, and they will make sure that your attendance has been confirmed and that you get credit for attending this program. Now, I don't like to close on just giving you instructions. I'm going to close with a poem. I started with a poem. I'm going to close with another one. And this is a poem I wrote for a friend of mine who's doing time in prison right now. He's doing triple life. I didn't know there was such a thing. But he's doing triple life for a crime he committed years ago. But I wrote him this poem when he was in jail. And he said, Joe, I know you wrote this for me, but please, you need to share this with others. Because I think it applies to anybody, not someone who's just incarcerated. And I want you to listen to the words in this poem. And this is my gift to you. And it's called Stay Strong. And listen to the words in it. My potential leaders, these words go out to you. They may be meaningless now, but I hope that they reach you. See, what you are is what I've been. And what you've seen, I've seen time and time again. Yes, I know the road you've chosen may still bring doubt because your friends have chosen a different route. But don't you worry. You're not alone. You're in all of our prayers. So my young leaders, stay strong. My leaders, hold your head up high. See, the others may doubt you, but no, not I. See, I cry for you as you will too for someone else. And you know that we believe in you. But the question is, do you believe in yourself? Now, as society points the fingers and try to discourage you through it all, stand tall unto yourself and God be true. When the road gets rough and it seems too long, don't forget those great people who paved the way for you. For them, you've got to stay strong. My young leaders, my heart goes out to you because I wish you didn't have to do the same things that we've all been through. But I can assure you to make you a stronger woman or man, because if anybody can do it, God knows that you can. Now, say what they will, you're stronger than they ever know because your great destiny was determined a long, long time ago. So when you finally decide to give something back to those who doubted you all along, remember, stay young, stay proud, but most of all, stay strong.